I still remember the first time I saw him. It was during the fall semester of my junior year at NYU. The campus was buzzing and I was just another over-caffeinated student rushing between lectures. But then I walked into a local bookstore off 6th Avenue, and there he was. Sitting by the window reading the picture of Dorian Gray with black coffee in hand. He looked like he belonged to another era. Elegant. Untouchable. His name was Elliot Sinclair, and from the moment our eyes met, something inside me shifted. I was never the girl who fell too easily. I'd been burned before, twice. So I had my guard up, my walls thick. But Elliot? He didn't knock on the walls, he climbed over them like they weren't even there. His voice was low and calm. His smile was rare, but when it came, it made you feel like you were the only person who mattered. And his texts, God, the way he wrote, like poetry and danger all rolled into one. One message from him and I'd find myself staring at the screen, smiling like an idiot, my heart pounding. We started spending time together. Slow at first. Coffee dates that turned into late-night walks. Talks that turned into whispers. Whispers that turned into silence. The good kind. The kind that fills a room with more emotion than words ever could. And the sex? Well, that's the thing. We hadn't. Not yet. It wasn't that we didn't want to, we did. The tension between us was like an electric storm waiting to explode. But Elliot had this principle. He said he believed in timing. That he didn't want to ruin something sacred by rushing it. And I believed him. Because when he said things like that, he didn't just speak them, he meant them. Or at least I thought he did. Weeks passed. Then months. He met my friends, my roommates, even my brother when he visited from out of town. Everyone liked him. Elliot was the guy you introduced to your parents. The guy who knew how to dress, how to speak, how to make anyone feel like they were being truly heard. But slowly, cracks began to form. Not loud ones. No fights. No yelling. Just little things. He'd sometimes flinch when I touched him in certain ways. He never stayed the night, even after we watched a movie cuddled up till 2 a.m. He never initiated anything intimate, and when I tried, he'd deflect, kiss my forehead and say, "Not tonight, love." At first I respected it. Then I wondered. I worried. One night, after too much wine and too much silence, I asked, "Is it me?" He looked at me, really looked, and said something I can't forget. "You're everything I could ask for. But I'm just not wired like everyone else." I laughed nervously. "You mean what?" "You're a robot." He didn't laugh. He just said, "No. I mean, I care about you, deeply. But there's something about me you don't know yet." And then he left. No explanation. No follow-up. Just silence. I spent the next 3 days in a haze, trying to act normal, trying not to panic. I replayed every moment we'd shared. Every touch, every look, every conversation. Trying to find a clue. A sign. Something. And then, on the 4th night, just as I was about to sleep, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "You think you know him. But you don't. Ask him about the apartment on Mercer Street." I sat up, heart hammering. Mercer Street? What apartment? Why was someone texting me this? And what the hell was Elliot hiding? I stared at the message on my phone for a long time. "You think you know him. But you don't. Ask him about the apartment on Mercer Street." My brain refused to process it at first. Was it a prank? A scam? One of those anonymous trolls who found your number online? But the timing, the precision, it felt personal. I didn't reply. Instead, I did what any self-respecting, sleep-deprived, heartbroken woman would do. I Googled it. Mercer Street, NYC, apartments, rentals. Too many results. Nothing specific. Then I remembered. One night Elliot and I were walking through Soho. He'd suddenly gone quiet while we passed a brownstone near Prince Street. I asked him if everything was okay and he brushed it off like he always did. "Just memories," he had said. That building was on Mercer Street. Was that the place? I waited until morning, my heart crawling in and out of paranoia, half of me thinking I was crazy, the other half knowing I wasn't. I texted him, "Elliot, what's Mercer Street?" He didn't respond. Not immediately. Hours passed. I went to class, Pretended to listen, nodded when someone asked me something, and kept checking my phone every 5 seconds like a lunatic. Then at 4:03 p.m. he texted back. "Who told you about that?" No emoji. No, hey. Just raw, unfiltered panic. My blood ran cold. That was the first time I ever saw Elliot scared. "So there is something to tell?" I wrote. Again silence. By evening I couldn't take it. I pulled my coat on, grabbed my keys, and made my way to Soho. I didn't have a plan. Just a burning need for the truth. I found the brownstone. Beautiful. Clean brick. Black iron railings. Third window had soft yellow light spilling through sheer curtains. I rang the buzzer. No answer. I waited. A woman came out of the building next door walking her golden retriever. I asked casually, "Hey, do you know who lives here?" She looked at the building, then at me. "That one. Some writer guy, I think. Keeps to himself. Never really see him much. But he's been here for a few years, I think." My heart skipped. A writer. She nodded. "Yeah, tall pale guy. Real sharp jawline. Always in a wool coat." That was Elliot. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. He told me he lived uptown. Said he was renting a tiny place near Columbia. Said he hated Soho. Lied. About everything. I sat across the street at a cafe for over an hour just watching. And then he appeared. Wearing that damn gray coat. Walking right into that building. Looking different. Not like the man I knew. But colder. Focused. Almost like he was another version of himself. I ran outside ready to confront him, but I froze halfway across the street. Another man had just walked out of the building. Slightly older. Handsome. Confident. And Elliot? Elliot reached for him. Took his hand. They looked at each other like the world had disappeared. No hesitation. No fear. And then they kissed. Right there in the middle of the sidewalk. Slow. Soft. Familiar. Like it wasn't the first time. Like it wouldn't be the last. I felt the sidewalk tilt beneath me. He saw me. Across the street. His eyes locked with mine. And in that one moment the man I loved, the man I thought I knew, looked straight at me, and didn't flinch. Didn't wave. Didn't run. Didn't apologize. He just turned, and walked back inside with the man. I don't remember walking home that night. The image of Elliot kissing that man replayed in my head like a scratched record. Over and over, every detail seared into my brain. The way his fingers laced with the man's, the casual confidence, the lack of hesitation. And then, the way he looked at me as if I were just another passerby on the street. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Was he gay? Bisexual? Was I just a cover-up? Test run? Did he ever even love me? Or was I just a safe harbor while he lived a double life? The next day he didn't call. Didn't text. Nothing. But I wasn't done. If Elliot had secrets, I needed answers. Closure. Even if it burned. So I went back. The next evening I returned to the brownstone. This time I didn't wait across the street. I walked right up to the door, heart pounding, and rang the buzzer. No answer. I waited. Rang again. Then the door opened, not Elliot but the man from last night. He looked surprised but not alarmed. "Can I help you?" I hesitated, then said it straight. "I'm looking for Elliot." His eyes narrowed just a bit. "He's not here. I saw him come in with you. Last night." He didn't blink. "That was private. I was dating him," I snapped. "For 3 months. He told me he loved me." The man's expression softened. Not with sympathy, but with something more tragic. "I see," he said quietly. "Then, you deserve to know." He stepped aside and let me in. The apartment was clean, warm, filled with books and art and photos. Of Elliot. Smiling. Laughing. With this man. "My name's Caleb," he said, pouring tea like we were old friends. "He and we've been together for 5 years." My breath caught. "What?" "We've had our ups and downs," he continued, "but yes. 5 years. We broke up briefly last year. That's probably when he met you." I felt like throwing the teacup. So I was, what? A rebound? "No," Caleb said, looking at me with painful honesty. You were his escape. I didn't understand. Escape from what? Caleb exhaled like he was holding on to a storm. Elliot doesn't know who he is. He thinks he can be one version of himself for a while, then another. He compartmentalizes everything. You weren't fake. I'm sure he cared. But Elliot's always running. From truth, from himself, from anyone who asks him to choose. I swallowed hard, my eyes stinging. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw your face last night. And because I've been you before. Silence. My throat tightened. I gave him everything. I trusted him with everything. Caleb nodded. So did I. Before I left, I asked the one question I couldn't hold back. Is he in love with you? Caleb paused. Then answered with brutal calm. Yes. But that doesn't stop him from breaking people. That night, Elliot finally texted. I saw you. I'm sorry you had to find out like that. I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear I didn't. Please don't hate me. I didn't reply. What do you even say to someone who shattered you with a kiss he didn't think you'd see? Thought I could forget. Move on. But 2 weeks later something happened that pulled me right back in. I got a message on Instagram. From a girl named Sabrina. Hi. This is random, but were you seeing Elliot Sinclair recently? Because I think we need to talk. I stared at Sabrina's message, heart pounding. Hi. This is random, but were you seeing Elliot Sinclair recently? Because I think we need to talk. For a full minute I debated whether to respond. Was this real? Another twist? Another ghost from Elliot's past, or just someone playing with me? But curiosity is a dangerous drug. Especially when your heart is already wrecked. Yes. I was. We broke up. He ghosted me. Why? Her reply came instantly. Can you meet me? We decided on a quiet coffee shop in Williamsburg. I arrived early, nervous, angry, exhausted. A million questions churned inside me. And then she walked in. Sabrina was beautiful, but not in an intimidating way. She looked tired. The kind of tired that only emotional damage could explain. She sat down and smiled, tight-lipped. Thanks for meeting. I don't even know what we're doing here, I said honestly. She didn't waste time. I met Elliot 6 months ago. On a flight back from LA. He was charming. Quiet. Said he was a writer. We started texting after. Then dating. My stomach dropped. He told me he wasn't seeing anyone else, she continued, eyes flicking to mine. Said he wasn't ready for anything serious, but made me feel like I was the only one. I almost laughed. He told me he wasn't ready too. But he also told me he loved me. Sabrina looked like she was going to be sick. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. A recent one. Elliot asleep, shirtless, in a bed that looked nothing like Caleb's apartment. The timestamp? Last week. I couldn't breathe. I confronted him when I saw him texting someone else, she said. He denied everything. Told me I was being paranoid. Said the girl was just an old friend. Let me guess, I said. Me. She nodded. It hit me like a wave. I wasn't just a rebound. I wasn't even the only rebound. Elliot had been juggling at least 3 different lives. Maybe more. Why are you telling me this? I asked her. Because I'm not mad at you, she said. I'm mad at him. And I think we should both stop letting him do this to people. The barista called out our drinks. Sabrina leaned closer. You know what's weird? Sometimes I felt like he wanted to get caught. I blinked. What do you mean? He shrugged. He'd leave hints. Slips. A second phone I found once. Notes that weren't for me. He was either careless or craving chaos. It made sense. Elliot thrived on mystery. Maybe even on destruction. I pulled out my phone. Texted him for the first time since the night I saw him with Caleb. How many of us are there, Elliot? He replied within seconds. Please don't do this. It's not what you think. I'm messed up. I know. But I care. I swear I care. I just don't know how to love right. Sabrina leaned in, reading over my shoulder. He texted me the exact same thing last week. We sat in silence for a long while, 2 women bound by the same pain. Before we parted, I asked her, "Are you done with him?" Sabrina hesitated. Then, I want to be. Me too. But deep down I knew Elliot wasn't finished. And I was right. Because later that night, around 2:12 a.m. he showed up at my apartment. Not with flowers. Not with apologies. But soaked in rain, shivering, eyes red, like a man who had finally broken himself. And what he said next changed everything. He stood there, drenched in rain, hoodie clinging to his skin, hair dripping into his hollow eyes. I didn't even recognize him at first. Elliot, the man who once carried himself like poetry, now looked like a page torn in half. I didn't say a word. I should have slammed the door. I wanted to, but I didn't. I had nowhere else to go, he whispered. I let him in. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was weakness. Or maybe a part of me still ached for answers. He didn't sit. He just stood in my hallway like a shadow, dripping water onto the hardwood floor. I lied to you, he began. I almost laughed. No kidding. He nodded, his jaw tight. I never meant for it to spiral like this. You were supposed to be different. I crossed my arms. Different how? Less smart. Less suspicious. No, he said quickly. I mean, you were supposed to fix me. That stopped me. Fix him. I don't love easily, he continued. I was with Caleb for years. It was real. But I ruined it. I wanted to feel something new. Something pure. That's when I met you. And Sabrina? He flinched. I didn't expect to fall for her too. She reminded me of someone I lost. My stomach turned. So we were just therapy? Distractions. No, he said. That's the part one can't explain. I loved you. Both of you. In different ways. But I kept breaking everything I touched. I stared at him, waiting for the usual excuses. But then his eyes shifted. Darkened. There's something else you don't know, he said. Something I never told anyone. He pulled something out of his coat. A photo. Of a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5. Blonde. Freckles. Same dimple on the left cheek as Elliot. My daughter, he said quietly. Her name's Ever. I couldn't breathe. She lives in Vermont with her mom. I was 19. It was a mistake, but I tried to stay in her life. Until I couldn't. I keep screwing it all up. I try to fill the void with people. But it never works. I get scared. I run. So what do you want from me now? I asked, voice shaking. Forgiveness. No, he said. I just wanted you to know me. The real me. Even if it's too late. And then he turned to leave. Just like that. No begging. No promises. Just truth and shame. But before he reached the door I spoke. I'm not mad that you're broken, Elliot. I'm mad that you knew it, and still invited people into your mess. He looked back. His lips parted but no words came out. You need help, I continued. Not love. Not sex. Help. He nodded once. And walked out. That was the last time I saw him. 3 months later I heard from Sabrina. She said she saw Elliot's name in a therapy journal online. Apparently he'd started treatment. Caleb had cut him off. Sabrina was dating someone new. Me. I was healing. It wasn't easy. Some nights I still found myself wondering what if. What if I'd never gotten that anonymous text? What if I'd never gone to Mercer Street? But then I remember. He was my everything. Except the one thing I needed most. Someone honest.